Alright, what's going on, guys? Botox Games back again. Today I want to talk about what's left for the Nintendo Switch now that we're in its, let's say, twilight years here. Everybody's expecting a Nintendo Switch 2 to be announced early next year, release late next year, or even in early 2025. That's what I'm personally putting my money on. But either way, the Switch 1, as much as I love it, it is winding down. It is getting to that point where we can really start to talk about the next console and talk about its final software. So that's what I wanted to do today. I might do another video next week or something going over what software and games I expect for the Switch 2 in its early years, maybe its launch lineup, that kind of thing. Do a video predicting that. But today I wanted to talk about what's left for the Nintendo Switch as we know it. This is definitely my favorite Nintendo console at this point. The software library has been absolutely just absolutely insane in terms of ports and just fully having a full history of Nintendo available on one console, but then also just a ton of third-party stuff. It's really been a great console for me. But I want to talk about these final games here from Nintendo itself, first-party games, and predict them with you all. So if you have any ideas for what games we might see on the Switch 1, not Switch 2, let me know down in the comments below what you would like to see, what you expect to see, and let's go ahead and get into this. So before we get into the actual predictions, we do currently know of 3 games coming out in 2024. Of course, this year we had Detective Pikachu and WarioWare and Mario Bros. Wonder, as well as Mario RPG. And then in 2024, we have the Untitled Peach game, which I did a full video on talking about that game, what I think it might be, because we didn't really see much of it, as well as when I think it might come out. I'm predicting first half of 2024. I don't think that's a very groundbreaking prediction, but there it is. That game's actually pretty exciting. Then we have a port of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon coming over. That is a 3DS game. The sequel, of course, to Luigi's Mansion 2 in Europe, which is it called Luigi's Mansion 2 for the Switch version in Europe? I wonder. And in Japan? If you're a European, let me know. Is it being called Luigi's Mansion 2, or did they actually give it the Dark Moon subtitle? And then, of course, Metroid Prime 4, which isn't actually slated for 2024, but I think most people are expecting it to release them, myself included. I'm a little conflicted on Prime 4, because while I definitely think it'll be a Switch 1 game, like I do think it will release on the original Switch hardware, I do wonder if they might do some sort of cross-gen thing with that. Not that Nintendo ever does that, really, outside of some Zelda stuff. But I do wonder if that might be something they prop up as a launch title for Switch 2, in addition to something else. It certainly wouldn't be like the main launch title, but maybe for the hardcore fans. I'm a little conflicted on that, 50-50, but either way, Metroid Prime 4 is definitely going to come to the OG Switch, and likely in 2024. But that's only 3 games for next year, which, honestly, pre-September Direct isn't that bad. Normally we don't really know much going into the next year, so assuming the September Direct happens, I expect a lot of what I'm about to talk about could actually be revealed and dated for 2024. So let's go ahead and get into these predictions, and a lot of this is based on rumors, so keep that in mind. So the first thing I want to cover is stuff that I think could actually come out this year. Not all of it, but some pieces of this might be released this year, and that is some more GameCube ports. So the popular rumors are Metroid Prime 2 and 3, for obvious reasons, and F-Zero GX. So I believe Nate the Hate initially started the F-Zero GX rumor on his podcast. I know it's one of those things where you're going to hear that and be like, oh no, they're not. It's F-Zero, it's a fan's dream, fake Nintendo Direct leak. I actually don't think it's that unlikely. The Switch is at this point where it has most franchises represented, and a pretty low-effort port of the GameCube game that was so highly reviewed. Honestly, it makes a lot of sense. It might not get a physical release. It might be a pretty low-key eShop shadow drop in September, but that is honestly, I think, not likely, but I'm not going to be shocked if I see it announced in a Nintendo Direct, right? And then Metroid Prime 2 and 3 are interesting because Retro Studios did the remake or remaster of Metroid Prime earlier this year, and that remaster blew everybody away. It's one of the best-looking Switch games, if not the best-looking Switch game. There's definitely no chance they're doing 2 and 3, at least not to the same fidelity, since they're working on Metroid Prime 4, unless Metroid Prime 4 is coming out way later than we think, and they've been really focusing on 2 and 3 remake, or remastered. But if they want to do more straightforward GameCube ports, I could see those coming out anytime between September to early next year. I hope that they also get physical releases, because Metroid Prime 1 did. As a physical collector, I really hope we end up getting all Metroid Prime games physically on Switch, even if it's a pack of like 2 and 3 together or something. Although that'd be a little weird, because one's by itself. But either way, Metroid Prime and F-Zero GX, I think all that's pretty likely, especially Metroid Prime 2 and 3. I don't think they're just going to leave those there, especially if they want to hype up Metroid Prime 4, lead up to release, have Prime 2 and 3 come out as digital games, hopefully have a physical, and that's just a great way to market Metroid Prime 4. But outside of that, now we are squarely in 2024 predictions for first-party Nintendo Switch software. The first thing I want to talk about, and I do think this will be announced in the September Direct, although I'm sure I'll do another September Direct predictions video, is Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War Remake. If you're unaware, in the files or in the data and the keywords hidden within the Fire Emblem games, they're kind of assigned numbers based on which mainline game it is. So for example, Fire Emblem Engage is Fire Emblem 19 or FE19. Fire Emblem Three Houses, the previous Fire Emblem game, is FE17, meaning there is an FE18 sitting somewhere that has not released. So I think it's likely that Fire Emblem 4 Remake, Genealogy of the Holy War, was being developed at the same time as Engage. Maybe Intelligent Systems was doing it entirely themselves. Maybe Koei Tecmo was helping. Whatever it is, I think that game was being developed at the same time as Engage. We've heard rumors, I think, from Emily Rogers about this, and she has a very, very reliable track record. So I think Fire Emblem 4 Remake is a total safe bet for this next Nintendo Direct, and that could be a January release next year. You know, the way they released that Fire Emblem Engage DLC was a little weird. They announced it for releasing through the end of 2023, and then they just shotgun fire blasted all of it out within like a month. So I think they were doing that to get out of the way of a Fire Emblem 4 Remake announcement, and I think that could even open this next Direct, honestly. That seems like a pretty safe bet to me. Shifting back to what could potentially be a GameCube port, Paper Mario. So I talk about this a little bit in my Peach game video. I don't know who's making the Peach game. It could be Intelligent Systems, the developers of Paper Mario. It could be Next Level Games. It could be done internally at Nintendo EPD. But one thing is certain, there is a 4-year pattern for Paper Mario. You know, going all the way back to the original Paper Mario game, there has been one released almost exactly every 4 years. I think the only time that didn't happen was between Super Paper Mario and Sticker Star, but typically these things release every 4 years. Now, if Intelligent Systems is making that Princess Peach game because the Switch generation has lasted so long as kind of a replacement for what they would have done with a new Paper Mario game, then that would, I think, kind of cancel this out. But I wouldn't be shocked to see a remake or a remaster of the original game, although not super likely because it's on Switch Online, or Thousand Year Door, or, as I've been predicting for about a year now, I think I made a video on this back in February, I think Super Paper Mario actually makes a lot of sense to come over as an enhanced port for the Switch. Not an eShop game, like they're actually going to market this and release it on store shelves. So I'm going to say that I think Super Paper Mario will release probably in the later half of next year. This could even be 2025, like after the Switch 2 comes out, because they're not going to just cold turkey stop doing Switch games immediately. They will support it at least a little bit, especially if the Switch 2 is backwards compatible. So I think a Super Paper Mario remake or port, enhanced port, whatever you want to call it, is actually pretty likely. I know people want Thousand Year Door, and as much as I would love that too, we already have, maybe you don't agree with this or you don't like it, but we already have kind of a turn-based Paper Mario game on Switch with Origami King. So I think in terms of fitting a new genre or gameplay niche, Super Paper Mario actually makes a lot more sense. I don't think we're going to get a whole new one. I really don't think they'll waste that on Switch. Frankly, I think they would save that for Switch 2. So I think that's actually pretty likely for next year or early 2025. Keeping on that Mario train of thoughts, I just have to shout out Mario Party. I mean, I think that's pretty likely. We got Super Mario Party in 2018, then in 2021 we got Mario Party Superstars, so this would be 3 years again, keeping in that Indie Cube kind of release cycle. I think a new Mario Party game next holiday just makes a lot of sense, and alongside that, people keep speculating for another Mario sports game, and while I would love Mario Baseball or Mario Basketball or something completely entirely new, I don't know. I think if anything, we would probably get a Mario Sports Mix style thing. They seem to like doing that towards the end of a console's life. It happened on the Wii with Mario Sports Mix. It happened on the 3DS with Mario Sports Superstars. So I think if anything, it would probably be something like that. But I'm not convinced. I mean, we already got the main tennis, golf, and strikers. If anything, I would prefer baseball. That's the dream. But I think we'll get a Mario Sports Mix style game as one of the Switch's final games, if anything at all. One of the best potential sellers I haven't even talked about yet is Tomodachi Life. Tomodachi Life is one of the best-selling 3DS games. I think it sold like close to 8 million, 7 million, something like that. The fact that it's not on Switch is very weird, especially since we got Miitopia, which is a very similar game using Miis and that funny humor. I think Tomodachi Life, they might save it for the Switch too, but there seems to be such a hunger for this franchise to return, even if it is like Tomodachi Life Plus, and it's more like an enhanced port. I'd be disappointed. I think it's been long enough for a new game, but even if it is just a 3DS port with some new content and that new Mii Maker / creation tool from Miitopia on Switch, I think that makes a lot of sense like I said, it's one of the best-selling 3DS games. It'd be really weird if they just kind of left that on the table, especially since I have seen a lot of people clamoring for it. Something else I recently talked about in my Monolith Soft / Future of Xenoblade video is Xenoblade Warriors. I don't think there's a chance we don't get this game. I mean, there's always a chance, right? But we already have 2 Zelda Warriors games. We already have 2 Fire Emblem Warriors games. The Nintendo Warriors crossover games are the best-selling ones for Koei Tecmo, or at least the Zelda Warriors games are. The Fire Emblem ones don't do that well, but even on the Warrior scale, they do pretty well. I don't know if they want to do another Zelda one so soon. We just got 3 Hopes in 2022, but I think Xenoblade Warriors just makes a lot of sense. And in terms of every Nintendo IP that they could adopt to a Warriors kind of moniker, there's plenty of other potential, I guess. They could do Star Fox Warriors, they could do, Mario Warriors, something simple like that. But in terms of fitting that war theme, big battlefields, Xenoblade just makes a lot of sense. Have all characters from all 4 games. Maybe get some Xenosaga DLC in there if Bandai Namco wants to play ball. That just makes a lot of sense to me. I could even see that being announced this year and then, released like early next year. That could also be another reason that Future Redeemed came out so fast, kind of sandwiched in between Advance Wars and Tears of the Kingdom. That was kind of a weird release, so maybe like with the Fire Emblem Engage DLC, they were trying to get that out of the way so that Xenoblade Warriors kind of has more time to breathe. Just a theory, but I do think this will happen. If not Xenoblade Warriors, definitely another Nintendo-themed Warriors game on the Switch 1. We get one, I think, about every 1.5 to 2 years, so by next summer, it'll have been 2 years since 3 Hope came out, which also, oddly enough, did not get DLC. That's kind of suspect, to be honest. Though, then again, they had all of the Ash and Wolf stuff in the base game, so maybe it's not that weird. This might shock a lot of people, but I actually think we'll get another Zelda game on the Switch next year. Nintendo has been pretty adamant about having a Zelda game every year, and with the exception of 2012 and I want to say 2022, that has held pretty much true. Now, kind of bending the rules a little bit there. We're counting Hyrule Warriors Legends, Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, but then there are years where we get 2 games, like in 2019, we got Link's Awakening and Cadence of Hyrule. So I think even if it's a small-scale game or a remake or something, there will be a Zelda game released next year. I don't really think it's going to be Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, honestly. That'd be nice, but I feel like at this point they might as well save those for Switch 2. They're kind of running out of basic ports to do. I mean, those are basically the last ones. And then 2D games, they just released Oracle of Seasons and Ages on the Switch Online, which tells me they're probably not remaking those right now. So maybe a Link to the Past remake, or ideally, and this is what I've been waiting for the past 7 years with the Switch, a multiplayer Zelda game. I am an avid Triforce Heroes defender. I love that game. It's so much fun with friends. I want something like that for the Switch. It feels like such a perfect fit. Make it a 2-player Zelda game. We've had 4 Swords Adventures. We've had Triforce Heroes. Give us a 2-player Zelda co-op game. That would be so much fun. And so just something smaller scale. Maybe Growzo's making it like they did with Triforce Heroes. It is possible that the big Zelda thing for 2024 might just be a Tears of the Kingdom massive DLC, but I am hoping for some sort of multiplayer Zelda game. That is my hope, that is my dream, and that is what I want to see in the Switch's final year in 2024. And then finally, this is kind of a given, but Pokemon. So I think that Game Freak is going to be unreasonably slow in switching to the Switch 2, pun intended. Game Freak kind of has this history of waiting before switching to the next console. We saw it with Black and White 2, releasing in 2012, a full year after the 3DS came out, and then not quite as bad, but we saw Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon release in late 2017 on the 3DS. I think with the way software is currently selling on the Switch 1, unless something happens and it just stops selling completely, like the next Pokemon game that comes out next holiday just sells really bad for some reason, I think we're actually going to see a lot of mainline Pokemon on Switch still. I think next year, we will probably see some sort of Black and White Kyurem, Legends Kyurem kind of game, following that Legends Arceus style of gameplay. I think that's what we're going to get next year. And then in 2025, my hope is that they take their time and don't rush out Gen 10. But I would not be shocked if Gen 10 comes out on the Switch. Now, once again, for those that might be watching this video and you're newer to the channel, I am under the belief that the Switch 2 is coming out in 2025. Early 2025, but still 2025, which means if Legends Kyurem, or whatever that game is, Black and White Remakes, whatever it is, if that's 2024, then that'll be Switch 1 exclusive, obviously, and then 2025, we get the new console in March, and then Gen 10 releases that holiday. I'm hoping they hold it. I'm hoping they take their time and polish it up. Someone commented on my last video saying they might save Generation 10 for the 30th anniversary, which is 2026. That actually does make a lot of sense. Although, knowing them, they might do another Kanto remake, knowing how Pokemon Company goes. So we'll see. I think minimum we'll get 2 more mainline games on the Switch, though. Even if Gen 10 is 2026, we'll get something else in 2025. That's my theory, at least just based on how well Pokemon Scarlet and Violet did, how well Legends Arceus did, and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I mean, why would Game Freak want to move on from this thing when they are selling better than they ever have? Though, counter argument, they did just have that report saying they are going to try to ensure quality or whatever. I need to make a video on that. So we'll see what happens with Pokemon, but I'm not holding my breath. I think they're going to keep pumping out a game pretty much every holiday season. And I could keep going on. I think something like Astral Chain 2 could honestly be a really late Switch 2 game. Xenoblade Warriors, I mentioned. Xenoblade X, I think, is totally possible. But I could sit here for hours speculating ports and remasters and dream games. But honestly, we really are winding down with the Switch generation. I think if everything I release here came out, that would be a perfect amount of games for the final year of the Switch. You know, Nintendo's been great about giving us 1 game a month. Most of what I said was ports and remasters. So honestly, I don't think my list is that unreasonable. But let me know down in the comments below, what do you think is going to release on the Nintendo Switch in its final year or 2 on the markets? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. And of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo content like this each and every day. Until next time, folks. Peace.